Let's look at yoke in the New Testament. Let's go to Genesis 27 and we'll look at 39 and 40. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break the yoke off thy neck. Let's go to Leviticus 26 and 13. I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that you should not be their bondmen. And I will have broken the bands of your yoke, and made you go upright. Let's go to Numbers 19, and we want 1 through 6. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, and unto Aaron, saying, This is the ordinance of the law, which the Lord hath commanded, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. And ye shall give her unto Eleazar the priest, that he may bring her forth without the camp, and one shall lay her before his face. And Eleazar the priest shall take of her blood with his finger, and sprinkle of her blood diligently before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times. And one shall burn the heifer in his sight, her skin and her flesh and her blood, with her dung shall be burnt. And the priest shall take cedar wood, and hyssop, and scarlet, and cast it into the midst of the burning of the heifer. Let's go to Deuteronomy 21, and we want 1 through 7. If one be found slain in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it, lying in a field, and it be not known who hath slain him, then thy elders and thy judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are around about them that is slain. And it shall be that the city which is next unto the slain man, even the elders of the city shall take a heifer which hath not been wrought with, and which hath not drawn in the yoke. And the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer into a rough valley, which is near in nor sown, and shall strike off the heifer's neck there in the valley. And the priest, the son of Levi, shall come near, for them the Lord thy God hath chosen to minister unto him, and to bless in the name of the Lord, and by their words shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. And they shall answer and say, Our hands have not shed this blood, neither have your eyes seen it. Let's go to chapter 28, and we want 47 and 48. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he has destroyed thee. Let's go to 1 Samuel, and we want 6 through 8. Wherefore, when do you harden your hearts, as the Egyptian and Pharaoh hardened their hearts, when he had wrought wonderfully among them, but they not let the people go, and they departed? Now therefore, make a new cart, and take new mallet cane on which there has become no yoke, and tie the cane to the cart, and bring their calves home from them, and take the ark of the Lord, and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold which ye returned for your transgression offering in a coffer by the side thereof, and send it away, and it may go. Let's go to 1 Kings, and we want chapter 12, and we want 2 through 14. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt. And they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore, make thou grievous service of thy father, and his heavy yoke, which he put upon us. Lighten, and we will serve thee. And he said unto them, Depart yet for 3 days, then come again unto me. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam consulted with an old man that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, and said, How do you advise that I may answer this people? And they spoke unto him, saying, If thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and wilt serve them, and answer them, speak good words to them, then they will be thy servant forever. But he spoketh the counsel of an old man, which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with them, and which stood before him. And he said unto them, Won't counsel give ye that we may answer this people who have spoken to me, saying, Make a yoke, which thy father did put upon us lighter? And the young men that were grown up with him spoke, and saying, Thus shalt thou speak to this people that spoke unto thee, saying, Thy father made thy yoke heavy, but make thou it lighter unto us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, A little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. And now therefore my father did lay you with honey yoke, with heavy yoke, and see, I will add your yoke. My father has chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the 3rd day, as the king had appointed, saying, Come to me again the 3rd day. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old man's counsel that they gave him, and spoke to them after the counsel of the young man, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Let's go to 2 Chronicles, and we want 10, we want 3 through 14. And they sent and called him. So Jeroboam and all of Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore, ease thou somewhat the grievous servitude of thy father, and this heavy yoke that he put upon us, and we will serve thee. And he said unto them, Come again after 3 days. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam took counsel with an old man that had stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, saying, What counsel give ye me to return answer to this people? And they spoke unto him, saying, If thou be kind to his people, and please them, and speak good work to them, they will be thy servant forever. But he forsook the counsel which the old man gave him, and took counsel with the young men that were brought up with him, and stood before him. And he said unto them, What advice give ye that we may return answer to this people, which have spoken to me, saying, Ease somewhat the yoke that thy father put upon us. And the young men that were brought up with him spoke unto him, saying, Thus shalt thou answer the people that spoke unto thee, saying, Thy father made our yoke heavy, but make thou it somewhat lighter for us. Thus shalt thou say to them, My little finger shall be thicker than thy father's ones. For whereas my father put a heavy yoke upon you, I will put more to your yoke. And my father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the third day, and the king bade, saying, Come again to me on the third day. And the king answered roughly, and the king Rehoboam forsook the counsel of the old man, and answered them after the advice of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add thereto, my father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. You know, this kind of sounds like the way that things are now. We slowly went into slavery, and now we have a new taskmaster. Let's go to Isaiah and chapter 9 and verse 2 through 5. The people that walk in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. And thou hast multiplied the nation, and not increased the joy. They joy before thee according to the joy in harvest, and as the men rejoice when they divide the spoils. For thou hast broken the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments roll in blood. But this shall be the burden and the fuel of fire. Let's go to chapter 10 and 26 and 27. And the Lord of hosts shall stir up a surge for him, according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift it up after the manner of Egypt. And it shall come to pass in that day, that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. Let's go to chapter 14, and we'll go 24 through 26. The Lord of hosts hath sworn, saying, Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have pursued, so shall it stand, that I will break the Assyrians in my land, and upon my mountain tread them underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. This is the purpose that is pursued upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all nations. Let's go to chapter 47, 5 through 7. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughters of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the lady of kingdom. I was wroth with my people, I have polluted my inheritance, and given them into thy hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancients hast thou very heavy laid thy yoke. And thou sayest, I shall be a lady even forever, so that thou didst not lay those things to thy heart, neither did thou remember the latter end of it. Let's go to chapter 58, and we want 6 through 11. Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke? Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bringest the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, thou shalt cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putteth forth of the finger, and the speedily vanity. And if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and steadfast and afflicted soul, then shalt thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. And the Lord shall guide thee continually, and steadfast thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like the watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose water faileth not. Let's go to Jeremiah. We want chapter 2, and we want 20 through 22. For of old time I have broken thy yoke, and burst thy bands, and thou sayest, I will not transgress. Then upon every high hill, and under every green tree, thou wouldest play the harlot. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, woolly a ripe seed. How then art thou turned into the desolate plant of a strange vine unto me? For thou wast washed thee with nectar, and I take thee much soap. Yet thine iniquity is marked before me, saith the Lord. Let's go to chapter 5, and we want 4 and 5. Therefore I say surely, these are poor, they are foolish, for they know not the way of the Lord, nor the judgment of their God. I will get me unto a great men, and will speak unto them, for they have known the way of the Lord, and the judgment of their God. But these have altogether broken the yoke, and burst the band. Let's go to chapter 27, and we want 8 through 12. And it shall come to pass that the nation and the kingdom which shall not serve the same Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and that I will not put their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation will I punish, saith the Lord, with the sword, and with the famine, and with the pestilence, until I have consumed them by his hand. Therefore, hearken not ye to your prophets, nor to your divines, nor to your dreamers, nor to your enchanters, nor to your sorcery, which speak unto you, saying, Ye shall not serve the king of Babylon, for they prophesy a lie unto you, to remove you far from your land, and that I should drive you out, and ye shall perish. But the nation that bring their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon to serve him, these will I let remain still in their own land, saith the Lord, and they shall till it, and dwell therein. I spoke also unto Zedekiah king of Judah, according to all these words, saying, Bring your neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, and serve him and his people, and live. Let's go to chapter 28, and we want 1 through 17. And it came to pass the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 14th year, in the 5th month, that Hananiah, the son of Azor, the prophet, which was of Gideon, spoke unto me in the house of the Lord. in the presence of the priest and of all the people, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years will I bring again into this place all the vessels of the Lord's house that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took away from this place and carried them into Babylon. And I will bring again into this place Jekiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, with all the captivities of Judah that went into Babylon, saith the Lord. For I will break the yoke of the king of Babylon. And the prophet Jeremiah said unto the prophet Hananiah, in the presence of the priests, and in the presence of all the people that stood in the house of the Lord. Even the prophet Jeremiah said, Amen. The Lord do so. The Lord perform thy words which thou hast prophesied, to bring again the vessels of the Lord's house, and all that is carried away captive from Babylon into this place. Nevertheless, hear thou now this word that I speak in thine ears, and in the ears of all the people. The prophet that hath been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries, and against thy kingdoms of wars, and of evil, and of pestilence. The prophet which prophesies of peace. When the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known, that the Lord hath truly sent him. Then Hananiah the prophet took the yoke from off the prophet Jeremiah's neck and broke it. And Hananiah spoke in the presence of all the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Even so will I break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon from the neck of all nations within the space of 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went on his way. Then the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah the prophet, after Hananiah the prophet had broken the yoke from off the neck of the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Go and tell Hananiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Thou hast broken the yoke of wood, but thou hast made it for them yoke of iron. 14. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I have put a yoke of iron upon the neck of all these nations, that they may serve Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and they shall serve him. And I have given the beasts of the field also. Then said the prophet Jeremiah to Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord hath not sent thee, but thou mayest this people to trust in a lie. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will cast thee from off the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast taught rebellion against the Lord. So Hananiah the prophet died the same year, in the 7th month. Let's go to chapter 30 and 7 through 9. Alas, for that day is great, so none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and I will burst thy band, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him, but they shall serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Let's go to chapter 31 and 18. I have surely heard Ephraim, me mourning himself thus. Thus hast chastised me, and I was chastised as a bullock, unaccustomed to the yoke. Turn now me, and I shall be turned, for thou art the Lord my God. Let's go to chapter 51, we want 20 through 23. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. And with thee will I break in pieces the horses and his riders, and with thee shall I break in pieces the chariots and his rider. And with thee also will I break in pieces men and women, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and his maid. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husband and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers. Let's go to Lamentations, and we want chapter 1, verse 11 through 14. And her people sigh, they seek bread, they have given their pleasant things for meat to receive the soul. See, O Lord, and consider, for I have become vile. Is it nothing to you, all ye that pass by? Behold, and see, if there be any sorrow like unto my sorrow, which is done unto me, wherewith the Lord hath afflicted me in the day of this furious anger. From above hath he sent fire into my bones, and it prevaileth against them. He hath spread a net for my feet. He hath turned me back. He hath made me desolate and faint all the day. Oh, we got one more. The yoke of my transgression is bound by his hand. They are wretched, and come up upon my neck. He hath made my strength to fall, and the Lord hath delivered me into their hands, from whom I am not able to rise up. Let's go to chapter 3, and we want 26 through 28. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man that he bear the yoke of his youth. He sitteth alone, and keepeth silent, because he hath borne it upon him. Let's go to Ezekiel 34, 24 through 28. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David, a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it. And I will make with them a covenant of peace, and I will cause the evil beast to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. And I will make them and the place round about my hill a blessing, and I will cause the showers to come down in his season, where shall be showers of blessings. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, and shall know I am the Lord, when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hands of those that serve themselves of them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. Let's go to Hosea, and we want chapter 11, and we want 1 through 4. When Israel was a child, when I loved him, and I called my son out of Egypt, as they called them, so they went from them. They sacrificed unto Balaam, and burnt incense and graven image. I thought of Ephraim also to go, taking them by their arms, but they knew not that I healed them. I drew them from the cloud of a man, and with the bands of love, and I was to them as they that took off the yoke on their jaw, and I laid meat unto them. Let's go to Nahum, and we want chapter 1, and we want 12 and 13. Thus saith the Lord, though they be quiet, and likewise many, yet thus shall they be cut down, when he shall pass through. Though I have afflicted thee, I will afflict thee no more. For now I break his yoke from off thee, and will burst thy bands in sunder. In the strongest concordance, it is 5923. A yoke of impulse of the neck, literally or physically.